Today we're going to be taking a look at Kodak Ektachrome 100 or slide film. So with slide film, instead of your images coming back as a negative, they're actually a positive, and you can see them directly on the film itself. And back in the day, you used to use a slide projector to project your images, hence the name. Ektachrome was first released in the 1940s, but then discontinued in 2013, but luckily it came back in 2018 by popular demand in 35mm, 120, 16mm, and Super 8 format. Now, you can't develop slide film like you easily can C41 color film. It takes a special development process called E6 chemical process, and luckily, nowadays you can easily develop it at home by yourself, but if you don't really shoot a lot of slide film, a lot of film stores can still process it as well. So this is my first time shooting slide film, and you don't have to do anything different when shooting. You just have to be more aware of your exposure, because slide film has a lower latitude exposure than negative film, which means when editing, you don't have as much leeway bringing back details if you happen to over or underexpose your image like you would with negative film. I always use a light meter when I shoot film, but if you are unsure when shooting with slide film, I would recommend using a light meter just to be safe. And with slide film, your images are also going to look more contrasty, and you also don't have as wide of an ISO range as you do with negative film. With slide film, your only options are 50 and 100 ISO, so basically you want to be shooting on a bright and sunny day, otherwise your images probably won't turn out. In comparison, it's also a little bit more expensive than negative film from buying the film itself and then also developing it, so those are just a few things to take into account if you want to start shooting slide film. Now, when shooting, I wanted to test the range of the film, so the first half I shot in a forest setting, and the second half was a street style setting. For the forest setting, I went on a hike and photographed a bunch of trees and the sky, your basic nature stuff. And I also ended up hiking pretty high up, so I kind of got a nice overlook of the city. And then I was also kind of eye level with the fog, so it was interesting just seeing all that play in with the film. And for the street setting, I just walked around a local downtown area, looking, for bright colors and just, interesting things to photograph around there. My images turned out a little less saturated than negative film, which is to be expected, but my images still turned out pretty great in both settings and the film held up great. I also took the roll to a local film lab and they did a great job developing it. A few of my images were a little bit overexposed, but luckily I was able to still bring those details back in Lightroom, and typically when I do shoot film, I do like to overexpose, but with slide film, you have to be really careful when doing that, so probably the next time I shoot Ektachrome, I'll probably be going for a more accurate exposure in my images. But other than that, I didn't have to do much editing on my images, which is always, nice when you are shooting film, and kind of just, when I am looking at my negatives compared to them on the screen, they basically, kind of look the same. But I do think it is cool, just looking at your contact sheet of your film and then seeing images, perfectly on there, as compared, when you get your negatives back and you're holding it up to light and you're looking at it, you're like, well, what the fuck is this? And you can't, remember what you shot at all. But overall, I think my images turned out great, and the film held up really well in the situations I threw at it, which was a nice first experience to slide film. And I have been wanting to get more into slide film, because I just think the idea of being able to project my images straight onto a wall with an old school projector would be cool, especially, in this technology world we live in today. but with the wide range and capabilities of negative film, it's just kind of hard to make that switch right now. But hopefully as my film camera collection grows, I'll be able to dedicate one camera just to shooting slide film, and then I'll be able to get really more into shooting slide film.